Hi, this is Jen Rubin, and this is Jen Rubin's Green Room. I'm so glad you're back. And remember, tell your friends if you enjoy this program and have them subscribe right there. They can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube, wherever they get their podcasts. So we're at the beginning of a historic week because Donald J. Trump is facing a criminal case. He is finally in court. There's a judge. As we record this, they're in the midst of selecting a jury, and he will have to sit there day after day after day and listen to people testify against him. He may not like that. In fact, there's a very good chance he's going to blow up, and we'll see how that affects the jury if he does it when they're present, and we'll see how it affects the judge. And there was already a motion to hold him in contempt because, of course, he has violated the judge's gag order. That order is pretty simple. You're not supposed to threaten the people who are going to be witnesses. But no sooner was the ink dried on the original order and then the clarification of the order, then Donald Trump took to social media and started attacking Michael Cohen and Stormy Daniels, two people who are certainly witnesses in this case. And now the question is, what is Judge Merchan going to do about it? Well, we'll find out for certain, but I think this is the first real test of how differently are we going to treat Donald Trump simply because he is a former president. And I say simply because that should not be the defining factor here. He doesn't get a different set of rules simply because he used to be president. That defies the entire purpose of this exercise, which is to show that the rule of law applies to everyone. People who are president, people who were president, people who want to be president again, it doesn't matter. The same rules, whether it's the substantive criminal law or whether it's the rules of behavior when you're in court and on trial, have to apply to everyone, or it really means nothing. Now, a lot of people have said, oh, this is sort of a picayune little case, isn't it? Au contraire. This is the first case in which Donald Trump successfully lied, pulled the wool over the eyes of the voters, and got himself into power. And it convinced him, I am absolutely certain, that he was beyond any law, beyond truth-telling, beyond any constraint. In 2016, he was lying and covering up sex scandals. In 2020, of course, he was lying about the election results. Now he's lying about both and trying to get back into office. But this case really begins, it's sort of an inception story. If not for the lies about Stormy Daniels and about his other affairs, if not for the effort to cover it up so that the public would not be aware of yet another sex scandal, this in the wake of Access Hollywood, he might never have been president. We might never have had the Supreme Court we do. We might never have had January 6th, and on and on and on. So talk about the vagaries of history and small events leading to very, very big results. So we'll find out. I tend to have more faith in the average person, the average juror, than many. I think it's very, very hard to get on a jury when you have an agenda, and we've already seen scores of people say, I cannot be impartial. So they're honest enough to acknowledge that. And believe it or not, we're going to come up with a impartial jury. We always do it, no matter how infamous the defendant, no matter how infamous the crime, we are able to do it. That's the American justice system, and I will have faith in it. So that's a positive. Meanwhile, Congress is still diddling over the aid to Ukraine and the aid to Israel. We'll see if they can figure it out in the next few days. It's a disgrace. We have let the Ukrainians down. We have allowed them to be on the defensive. The Russians have bombed cities, have recaptured territory, have certainly killed more Ukrainians than would otherwise be the case had Congress been responsible. And that is on the shoulders of Donald Trump and Mike Johnson, who are poodles of Putin. They are entirely beholden to a dictator who wants to undermine democracy, who is the prime antagonist of our European allies. And there's no getting around that. They are just loyal to American interests, and they are willing to sacrifice the lives of other people, of the Ukrainians. So we'll see if they can kind of get their act together this week. Meanwhile, as Donald Trump is sitting in the courtroom, President Biden is campaigning all over Pennsylvania. And don't you think this was exactly what he intended? As Donald Trump has to sit there, the president is making stop after stop in one of the most critical swing states, Pennsylvania. He always likes going back to Scranton. That's where his roots are. And you've heard Joe from Scranton however many times. But he's going to be out there. And I will say this. If you've noticed how active the president is, he's campaigning. He's on the road day after day after day, multiple events in a day. Do you ever see Donald Trump do that? I don't think so. No, you don't. And in fact, he fell asleep in the courtroom. Sleepy Don. Yep. That's Donald Trump for you. So it's all projection. Just remember that. So I think we're going to have an eventful few weeks. In the meantime, I just want you to keep in mind the split screen. We have Donald Trump harumphing, grousing, muttering in court, maybe snoozing off some more. And on the other side, we have President Biden, who is out campaigning, who is doing the country's business, who is trying to resolve international crises. And that's quite the contrast, isn't it? And that's really what the election is about. Do we want someone who is absorbed with himself and his own criminality? Or do we want someone who actually cares about the American people and thinks it's his responsibility to solve problems? I don't see how there's any choice whatsoever, any possible confusion between who is a fit president and who's not. But that's just me. So keep the faith, keep voting, keep looking for ways to volunteer and support democracy. And remember, if you enjoyed this program and you enjoy our other programs, you can click right there to subscribe. You can follow us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Bye-bye.